Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I was in the middle of explaining to a designer why their ottoman mock-up looked like a dog bed when my phone started buzzing across the conference table. Bakersfield area code. That alone almost made me swipe it straight to voicemail. But something in me paused. Not panic, not dread, just that cold tug you get when life's about to punch a hole through your routine. I nodded to my team, stepped out of the glass room, and answered. The woman's voice was calm, too calm. "There's been an incident," she said. "Your sister, Gwen Simmons, was involved in a fall last night at a warehouse gathering in the Arts District." I froze just inside the hallway. Floor-to-ceiling windows behind me, sunlight hitting my back like nothing was wrong. But her voice kept going, steady and quiet like she'd read it 100 times. She sustained severe injuries. By the time she arrived at LA County USC, there was nothing we could do. For a second, all I could hear was traffic. Cars on La Cienega moving like the world hadn't just pressed a boot into my ribs. Then I turned around, walked straight past my assistant trying to flag me down, and hit the elevator. Quick note before we jump in. Drop a comment with the city or country you're listening from. It helps us see where everyone's tuning in and plan the best time for new stories. Thanks for watching Revenge by Frank. All right, let's continue. My name is Brody Simmons. I was 30 years old. I lived in West Hollywood, above the showroom I built from nothing. My days were precision built. Gym at 5, emails by 6, orders by 7, client meetings till dusk, and catalog planning deep into the night. I was in control of every last inch of my time. But that call shattered the whole setup in one sentence. I drove east on the 10, past the hotels I used to beg for showroom space in, past my first workshop in commerce, straight to County Hospital. Didn't even go home first. I walked into a basement room so cold I couldn't feel my hands, and stared down at a body that used to be my twin. They said accidental fall. They said possible intoxication. There was a footnote about an unauthorized event, and a name, Zane Cook. The detective barely looked up when he said it. Said the guy organized events, filmed them, probably left the scene before patrol arrived. I heard it, but I wasn't really there anymore. I only saw Gwen, face slack, quiet. The one person in my life who'd never taken a dime from me, who'd painted my first storefront window for free, who refused to move to LA even when I begged. She stayed in Bakersfield, raised her daughter Vivi in a 2-bedroom duplex near her school, and called me fancy city boy every time I posted catalog shots of minimalist chairs that cost more than her monthly rent. A social worker found me outside in the hallway. "She's with a neighbor right now," she said. "Vivi, we're making arrangements, but as of now, you're the closest listed relative." I blinked at her, didn't say anything. "You'll need to let us know by tonight. Either you take temporary custody, or we move forward with a county placement." The neighbor caring for Vivi was named Lucy, the single mom from 2 doors down, the one who'd kept Vivi overnight when the police called. She'd been with them in Los Angeles that night. When the music downstairs got too loud, she took Vivi upstairs, put headphones on her, and after the fall and the officer questions drove the kid back to Bakersfield. I thought about Karen, my fiancée, planning her latest blog shoot around our fall collection. I thought about the 6 meetings on my calendar for tomorrow and the warehouse orders waiting for my approval. And then I thought about Gwen, about her teaching me how to tape a straight edge, about her showing up at my first showroom opening with 3 dozen cookies and a folding chair for Vivi. I heard myself say, "She's coming with me." That night, I stood in Gwen's rental. The air smelled like washable markers and old-school glue. Vivi sat on the floor in cat pajamas, gripping a stuffed gray kitten like it was the last real thing she had left. "When's Mommy done at the show?" she asked. I crouched down and met her eyes. "You're gonna come stay with me for a while, kiddo," I said. She nodded like I'd just offered her crackers. By sunrise, I was at Kern County Child Services for the custody meeting, signing the temporary guardianship papers. A week later, Child Services signed off. We booked 2 one-way tickets to Burbank and took Vivi home to West Hollywood. Before we left Bakersfield, I asked Lucy to come down for a few days to help Vivi settle. She caught the late train that night. I left a key in the lockbox and made up the guest room. I stood in the doorway of that kid-bombed room, cardboard everywhere, stuffed animals stacked like guards, paint on the wall that hadn't seen a swatch test, and I couldn't stop staring. The bunk bed still sat there like a catalog ghost, but the rest? That room looked lived in, real, not staged. I hadn't realized how sterile the rest of the house felt until I walked back down the hall and past Karen's meditation corner, which was just a velvet stool and a bowl of white stones. No one had ever actually sat there. Next morning, I found Lucy and Vivi on the floor in the kitchen, gluing pipe cleaners onto an old shoebox and calling it a cat hotel. Lucy looked up and said she wanted to make a welcome gift for Jonah. I blinked. "Jonah's coming here?" Lucy nodded. "Tomorrow, just for the afternoon. Thought I mentioned that." Maybe she had. Maybe I hadn't been listening as closely as I should have. The next day, I cleared my schedule. Not out of some noble gesture, but because I wanted to know what kind of kid had pulled Lucy across town and through hospital chaos for 7 years. I thought I'd be meeting someone fragile. What walked in was a skinny kid with big eyes, a lopsided grin, and an Iron Man backpack that looked heavier than he did. He marched straight into the living room, pointed at the giant cardboard cat hotel Vivi had built, and said, "This is amazing. Can we add a rooftop pool?" Vivi didn't even hesitate. "Yes, but it has to be made of glitter." 10 minutes later, the two of them were up to their elbows in glue and plastic jewels, completely ignoring the fact that they were ruining a $12,000 rug. I opened my mouth to say something, then shut it again. Let them ruin it. It had never meant anything anyway. Lucy sat nearby, folding laundry on the couch, acting like none of this was new. And for her, it probably wasn't. Then Karen came down the stairs, heels clicking, phone in hand, and walked right into the edge of Jonah's intravenous bag. She caught herself, looked down, and froze. I watched her expression shift. First concern, then confusion, then something else. She looked at Lucy like she'd been tricked, then at me like I was supposed to explain it. I beat her to it. "Jonah's Lucy's son," I said. "He's here for the day." She leaned in and hissed, "You brought a kid with a heart condition into our house without telling me?" I kept my voice even. "It's not a secret, Karen. And this is his house too now. Or did you forget that?" She scoffed and adjusted her purse. "You're turning this place into a daycare center. This isn't what we built." I looked at the glue-covered rug, the cat hotel, the two kids laughing like they owned the place. Maybe this is what we should have built. She didn't like that. She didn't say another word, just walked out the door with her heels too loud and her lipstick too sharp. That week, everything turned sideways. My schedule, my inbox, my whole rhythm. I missed a call with a resort buyer I'd been chasing for months because Jonah had a fever spike. I left a showroom walkthrough early because Vivi got a nosebleed and panicked when Lucy wasn't in the room. My planner looked like someone's kid had used it for drawing practice. Red slashes everywhere. And yeah, it messed with me. I'd spent years being the guy who never missed a call, who showed up to every pitch with samples and numbers memorized. Now I was approving paint swatches from a hospital cafeteria and responding to emails in the preschool pickup lane. But every night, I came home to a house that actually had sound in it. Not curated playlists or scripted voiceovers, real sound, laughter, spilled juice, cardboard towers falling over. Vivi started calling Jonah her cat night, and he played along like it was the most natural thing in the world. One night, I caught the two of them under the coffee table, building a fort. Jonah was telling her a story about a kingdom of brave cats who wore armor and used intravenous tubes as magic ropes. Vivi listened like it was the Bible. Lucy walked in carrying 2 mugs of tea. She stopped when she saw the fort, looked at me and whispered, "He's doing better." I nodded. She is too. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed. It's not the house, it's the people in it. I didn't say anything back. I just watched the two kids giggle under the table like they were building something I couldn't quite see yet. Karen, meanwhile, kept pretending everything was normal, on camera. She called Vivi her little shadow on one post, filmed a 5-second clip of her handing Jonah a toy like it was a campaign ad, and even staged a photo of the four of us at the dining table. I only realized later that she'd cropped Lucy out completely. Off camera. It was different. I saw her checking the couch cushions after the kids left the room. Once she sprayed the guest bathroom with air freshener 3 times in 10 minutes. She acted like Jonah brought germs with him, and Vivi brought chaos. She also started booking content getaways more often. Palm Springs, Topanga, Santa Barbara. She claimed they were creative resets, but I knew she was running. Running from the noise, the mess, the loss of control. I wasn't. I'd started falling asleep on the couch. Not because I was in trouble, but because that's where the kids were. One night, Jonah crashed early on the left side, Vivi on the right, and I just stayed there, a blanket over my legs, cat drawings taped to the TV stand like it was a museum. Around midnight, I got up, walked through the house, and ended up back in the kids' room. The catalog-perfect bunk bed was untouched, but the walls, those walls. Painted cats everywhere, some smiling, some in armor, some flying. Tape marks from where Vivi had posted construction paper rules about fort bedtime and snack taxes. The rug was frayed at one corner. A tower of shoeboxes leaned in the corner like a tiny skyline. I didn't move, just stood there watching. That room had been designed to impress buyers. Now it looked like it belonged to a kid with a wild brain and a brother who saw magic in tubes and cardboard. And standing there, I finally admitted something I hadn't been ready to say before. This mess, this noise, this life, was the only thing in the house that felt like it had a soul. The room still smelled faintly like orange cleaner and marker ink, but Karen's perfume clung harder than anything else. I stood in the hallway outside the kids' room, watching Lucy zip up a small gray carry-on, folding Vivi's shirts like she was trying to erase creases that hadn't even formed yet. "I'm sorry," I said. It came out stiff. Useless. She didn't look at me, just kept packing like she was moving apartments, not walking out of the one place that had felt halfway safe since Gwen died. "I didn't believe her," I said. Not for a second. I should have said something. Lucy nodded, still not looking at me. "I told you once. I'm not staying where someone like Karen can try to humiliate me in front of a kid." I didn't know she'd go that far. "That's the problem," she said, finally meeting my eyes. "You didn't know. Or you didn't want to." I hated how true that felt. Downstairs, Karen was still pacing through the house like it was a sound stage and not a war zone. Her voice bounced off the walls, dramatic but careful, like she knew the security cameras in the entryway still caught audio. I sat down on the bed, elbows on my knees, and watched Lucy roll up a pair of Jonah's tiny socks. "She planted that bracelet," I said. "I found a photo from over a week ago. She was wearing it." Lucy's face didn't even flinch. "I know." "Then why didn't you call it out?" She hesitated, then said, "Because I've been poor long enough to know how fast people believe it when something's missing. I wasn't going to stand there and defend myself like it was a courtroom. Not in front of Vivi." That landed harder than anything else that day. I'd been so used to defending my reputation with contracts and lighting angles, I forgot what it meant to survive people's assumptions without a mic. She stepped over to the closet, pulled out a small mesh pouch, and started dropping medicine bottles into it. For Jonah. Always Jonah. "I'm not asking for pity," she said, "but I can't stay here. Not with someone who thinks putting a bracelet in a 5-year-old's art bin is fair game." I rubbed my eyes and leaned back against the headboard. "You shouldn't have to choose between being safe and being paid." That's the kind of thing people say when they don't know what rent feels like. Her voice didn't crack. It was sharp, clean, not angry, just done. I watched her for a minute, then asked, "What's really going on with Jonah?" She froze for a second. then zipped the pouch and sat down on the floor like her legs had given out. His next surgery's in 6 weeks. It's risky. It's expensive. Even with insurance, we're looking at more than 12 grand out of pocket. I've already sold my car, sold most of my jewelry. I'm taking night shifts at a kids' rehab center in Glendale just to stay ahead of the late fees. I stared at her. Not because I didn't believe it, but because she said it like she'd practiced it. Like this wasn't the first time she'd had to admit she was drowning. You should have told me. And have you what? Offer to fix it with a check? She asked. That's not help. That's control dressed up like kindness. I've had enough of that. I didn't argue. I'd done it before, solved things with money because I didn't know how else to show up. If stealing that bracelet would fix his heart, maybe I'd think about it, she said, voice low. But it wouldn't, and I'm not that person. We sat there in silence for a minute. Just the two of us, and the muffled sound of the kids laughing in the hallway, building something out of cereal boxes and glue sticks. I got up slowly and reached for the suitcase. I can't fix this overnight, I said. But if you walk out that door, you're letting Karen win. And more importantly, you're leaving Vivi with her. You think I know what I'm doing with that kid? I don't. You've seen me forget her school ID, give her candy before breakfast, and nearly lose my mind trying to detangle her hair. But she trusts you. Lucy didn't say anything. She just looked tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind you carry in your bones. I'll talk to Karen, I said. Really talk to her. Set lines. She doesn't respect lines. Then maybe she shouldn't be living here. That got a look. I exhaled through my nose, already knowing how ugly that conversation was going to get. But I was out of middle ground. Karen had torched it with that stunt, and I'd helped her by not shutting it down in real time. I should have defended you, I said again. Lucy stood, tugged the suitcase back toward the closet. You shouldn't have had to. Later that night, I walked into the kitchen and found Karen pouring white wine into a mason jar, of all things. No cameras. Just her and that false calm she wore when she knew the storm was coming. I held up my phone, showed her the photo, the rooftop bar, her smiling bracelet catching the light. She glanced at it, then back at me. I didn't say it was stolen, she said. Just that it turned up somewhere weird. You accused Lucy in front of Vivi. She had my robe in her closet, too. I stared. You mean the robe you told me to donate 2 months ago? She blinked. That pause gave her away before she opened her mouth. I didn't realize I said that, she mumbled. You lied. I was scared, she snapped, voice rising. I saw you shifting, putting her first, putting them first, and I'm standing here watching everything we built turn into a daycare. I leaned on the counter. You mean everything you built for your followers, for your brand. I was never the vision. I was the lighting. She didn't deny it. Just took another sip of wine and turned away. I need her here, I said. I need someone who actually cares about those kids. And you... I paused. You tried to burn that down. She's not your family. She is now, I said. That ended the conversation. Upstairs, Lucy was still unpacking, quiet, efficient, like she hadn't trusted my follow-through until now. I stepped inside the room. She's not allowed near you or Vivi again without me present. That's not a suggestion. Lucy looked over her shoulder. You actually told her that? She'll be gone by the end of the week. There was no thank you, no warm moment. Just Lucy nodding and folding another tiny shirt. But I saw the shift, in her shoulders, in her breathing. She believed me now. Karen's perfume still lingered in the kitchen, even though she'd been gone for hours. The sun was slanting through the tall windows, making the floor glow in that too perfect way we used to fake for lookbooks. And for once, the house was quiet. I finally had a mug of coffee that hadn't gone cold while someone needed juice or a Band-Aid. I didn't even flinch when the doorbell rang. Probably some midday delivery or neighbor asking about the construction across the street. But when I opened the door, he was already smiling. Bleached hair, white hoodie, sneakers that cost more than rent in some zip codes. He looked like he'd just walked off a billboard for some tasteless streetwear brand. Too smooth, too confident, like the house belonged to him already. "Brody Simmons," he said, stepping forward before I even moved. "Finally. I hear you've got someone of mine inside." I didn't say anything. Just let the silence stretch. He glanced past me into the foyer. "Man, this is clean. Love what you did with the steel handrail. And those walnut stairs, custom cut?" I motioned toward the living room before I said something I'd regret about my millwork. "You've got 2 minutes, then you leave." He walked in like it was an open house, running his fingers along the edge of my credenza, nodding slow, cataloging every surface like he was already staging a shot. "Always nice to see another artist making it work," he said, settling onto the edge of the couch without being asked. I stayed standing. "What do you want, Zane?" He smiled like we were old friends. "Straight to it. I respect that." He leaned back, one arm draped over the couch. "You know who I am. I know who you are. I also know Gwen listed you as Vivi's emergency contact. Smart, safe, predictable." The name hit like a slap, but I kept my expression flat. He watched for a reaction, then went on. "I'm not here to cause problems. Just clean up a few things. Handle some unfinished business. Like pretending to be a father after skipping 5 years?" He grinned wider. "No need for the clause. I never said I wanted custody. Let's call it creative rights." I didn't respond. I didn't blink. He leaned forward now, elbows on knees, voice lowering just enough to make it feel like we were conspiring. "I'm launching a new experience line. Custom furniture events, immersive warehouse builds, all under my name. The vibe's industrial bohemian meets performance chaos. Think a little Coachella, a little Bauhaus, a little trauma chic." My stomach turned. "Here's the pitch," he said. "You come on as anchor partner, design support, access to your vendor network, a little promo through your showrooms. You get the growth. I get legitimacy. We both win." I stared at him. "You came into my house to sell me a co-branded nightmare circus?" He raised a finger. "With perks. You support my project, and I'll make sure no questions get raised about custody. I'll even sign over parental rights. Clean, quiet, mutual benefit. Plus, my audience's crossover potential, huge. Think synergy." "You're blackmailing me," I said. He smiled. "I'm negotiating. You let Gwen fall off a staircase in a warehouse you didn't bother to get permits for, and now you want to pitch me brand synergy?" His eyes flashed something colder than smug. Gwen was brilliant, but she liked the edge. She knew what she was signing up for. That night was a tragic accident. Nothing more. My jaw clenched so hard my molars ached. He stood up, wandered to the powder room like he owned the place, muttering something about washing his hands. And that's when I saw it. As he rolled up his sleeve, a small tattoo just above his wrist, an old-school camera with a halo inked above it. The exact sketch Gwen had texted me once, scribbled in the margin of a napkin. "Working with a big name soon," she'd written. "He's a lot, but could be a step up." I barely swallowed the bile. He walked back out, drying his hands with one of my linen towels like we were still mid-meeting. "You've got my card," he said, tossing a glossy square onto the table. "Think about it. Win-win." He was almost to the front door when it happened. The patio door slid open. Lucy stepped in first, her jacket half-zipped, cheeks pink from the cold. Jonah followed behind her, dragging a plastic dinosaur by the tail. Zane saw her and froze. Lucy stopped mid-step, eyes landing on him like she'd seen a ghost. Then her face hardened into something I hadn't seen before, something sharp and locked down. Jonah moved instinctively behind her. Zane gave a low chuckle. Small world. I stepped between them. "You two know each other?" Zane smirked. "We almost collaborated once. Her program, my vision. Didn't work out." Lucy's lips pressed into a line. She didn't say a word. Jonah reached for her hand. Zane winked and walked out like it was a pleasant visit, leaving the door wide open behind him. I shut it hard, turned back to Lucy. What was that? She set her keys down slowly. Let me get Jonah settled. Then I'll tell you everything. It took 5 minutes. She gave him a juice box, turned on his favorite cartoon, and made sure he couldn't hear us from the hallway. Then she sat down at the dining table and dropped the whole story like a bag of bricks. 3 years ago, she said, he came to the rehab center where I worked. Wanted to shoot a series about the healing process. Said he wanted to highlight kids with visible and invisible scars. Pitched it like it was charity. Turned out it was content. I didn't interrupt. He brought a crew. Didn't want permits. Said authenticity doesn't wait for paperwork. He started filming things without approval. Private therapy sessions, medication rounds, even one girl's meltdown after a traumatic visit. My fists curled under the table. When I called him out, I got warned by the board. Then came the anonymous tips. Accusations that I stole medication, doctored records, crossed boundaries, screenshots of messages I never sent. I know he faked them. I couldn't prove it. I felt like the air had gone thick, unbreathable. They forced me to resign, quietly. Said it was better for the program's image. She looked down. I kept quiet because I needed to stay in healthcare. I couldn't risk being blacklisted. And now he's back, I said. She nodded. And now you're on his radar because you're raising his daughter. Everything inside me shifted. All the surface anger, the logistics, the annoyance. None of it mattered now. He hadn't just killed my sister with negligence. He'd tried to drag kids into his garbage circus. And now he thought he could buy me off like a showroom sponsor. I stared at the card he left behind. Slick font, heavy gloss. Smelled faintly like cologne and lies. Lucy stood up. If he comes back, I'll handle it. I've done it before. I shook my head. No, you don't lift a finger. He's my problem now. I didn't tell Lucy I was driving up to Bakersfield. I just packed a bag, told her I needed to check on one of the old shops, and left before the kids were even up. She didn't push, just nodded, probably knew I wasn't going for business. Gwen's duplex was smaller than I remembered, or maybe it just felt that way without her in it. Everything looked paused. Her classroom posters still leaned against the wall near the coat rack, a half-open pack of markers on the kitchen counter, and Vivi's tiny pink sneakers still sitting by the door like they expected her back any second. I moved slow. Every step felt like walking through a memory I wasn't sure I was ready for. Her scent was gone, replaced with dust and stale air, but I could still see her, tugging furniture around, muttering about lesson plans, tying Vivi's hair up while reheating old coffee. I almost didn't open the bedroom closet. I stood there staring at the handle for a full minute, hand on the knob, heart in my throat. When I finally pulled it open, I found a box of school supplies, a bag of extra pillows, and shoved behind it, an old gray sweatshirt wrapped tight around a sketchbook. It was thick, beat up, corners frayed. I recognized her handwriting on the front flap, just her name and a tiny doodle of a bent chair. I flipped it open right there on the bed. The first few pages were what I expected. Kid-friendly furniture concepts, colorful bunk beds shaped like buses, little stools with wheels, bookshelves with built-in nightlights. But about halfway through, everything changed. The sketches got colder, sharper, big empty warehouse floor plans, arrows pointing to staircases, circles around overhead beams. In the margins, street names from the arts district. A few were underlined. One had the note, ZC wants raw, no tape, no rails. I drove back to LA that night with the sketchbook in the passenger seat and my knuckles white on the steering wheel. After both kids were asleep, Lucy and I sat at the kitchen table, a mug of cold tea between us, the sketchbook spread out like evidence. She wore an old hoodie, hair pulled up, no makeup, but her eyes locked onto those pages like she was reading a road map she'd seen before. "This one," she said, pointing to a sketch of a staircase drawn in thick black lines. "That's the building where the board made me resign. He used it for a 3-night installation series. Same shape, same layout. I remember it. The drawing had little camera icons in the corners. Underneath, too dark, no harness, filming anyway. ZC says adds danger." I flipped the page. Another room layout. More scribbled warnings. "No permit." He said fine. Said if anyone falls, we'll shoot it like a clip. Lucy's grip tightened around her mug, knuckles pale. She wasn't just sketching. She was documenting. She was scared, I said, but she stayed. She probably thought it would get her seen. And there it was. That thing that still burned me at night. How Gwen got pulled in. How she thought maybe this guy with followers and funding might finally give her something bigger than teaching second grade and painting windows for free. Just then, Vivi wandered into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes, clutching her cat. "I wanted water," she mumbled. Lucy got up, filled a glass. Vivi climbed into the chair beside me and blinked at the sketchbook. Her finger landed on a drawing, a quick marker sketch of a man leaning over a railing, body slightly hunched, a hand pointing. "That's the loud guy," she said, like she was naming a character. "From the night with the lights." Lucy and I froze. I leaned in. "What do you mean, baby?" She shrugged. "He kept yelling at Mommy and the lady with the pink jacket." I was upstairs. I had the headphones. The music downstairs hurt my ears. Lucy sat back down, quiet, careful. I kept my voice steady. "Do you remember what he was yelling?" Vivi nodded. "He said, 'If you're scared, you can leave, but don't ruin the shot.'" My heart punched into my ribs. "Then what happened?" Lucy asked gently. "People ran. Then Mommy yelled. Then the loud guy pushed the pink lady's shoulder and said, 'Just go already.' Then the yelling stopped. Then the sirens." Vivi said it like she was describing a cartoon. No fear, no big emotion, just details. Clean, factual. My throat burned. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders and kissed the top of her head. She looked up at me. "Am I in trouble?" "Not even a little bit," I said. "You're helping." Lucy carried her back to bed while I stayed at the table, sketchbook still open. My hands were shaking, but my brain had already shifted into build mode. That part of me, the planner, the fixer, the guy who always ran the numbers first, he was wide awake now. Lucy came back 5 minutes later with her laptop. "There's a group chat," she said. "Private thread, mostly crew people, makeup artists, bartenders, assistants. They all worked events for Zane. I got added months ago. I haven't said anything." She opened the thread. Screenshots, complaints, DMs. I'd dismissed most of this kind of thing before as noise. But now, lined up with Gwen's notes, it wasn't noise. It was a pattern. One of the crew members, a set assistant, was already working with a tiny docu-channel that exposed predatory visionaries in the art world. Low budget, no frills, but real work. Lucy messaged her directly. Within minutes, the woman replied, "If you've got something concrete, I want it." I looked at the sketchbook again. "I've spent years pitching to people who only care about aesthetics and quarterly returns," I said. "Let's see how they respond to truth." Lucy gave me a sharp look. "You're going to take this public?" I nodded. "Not with Gwen's name plastered on it." "Not yet. But I'm going to light a fire under his house." That night, Jonah's doctor emailed a surgery window. Late October. Insurance would cover most of it. But the rest? Nearly 15 grand. Lucy didn't say much when she read the number. Just sat there, already calculating how many shifts she'd need, how little sleep she could survive on. I watched her for a long second. "You're not going to hustle your way through this," I said. "Not alone." She opened her mouth to argue. I raised a hand. You know what I'm good at? Raising money from rich people who want to feel less guilty about their furniture. Let me do what I know. She stared at me, then nodded once. 2 days later, I pitched my board on a new project. A charity gala hosted at our flagship showroom. One-of-a-kind pieces built from drawings by kids. Some battling illness, some navigating loss. Jonah's cardboard cat armor. Vivi's flying fortress bunk bed. We'd turn them into actual pieces. Sell them to hotel execs, collectors, influencers. 50% would go to Jonah's pediatric cardiac unit. The rest to a fund supporting people harmed by unregulated creative spaces, anonymous legal help, rent stipends, therapy grants. I didn't say Zane's name in the presentation deck, but every person in that room knew who I was talking about. We'd opened the program with a short reel, Gwen's floor plans overlaid with crew phone clips and permit emails, the kind of proof you can feel in your gut. The moment the video ended, you could feel the air shift in the room, like someone had hit pause on the entire event. People weren't even pretending to sip their drinks anymore. Phones were lifted, but no one was recording speeches or product lines now. They were capturing damage. Karen was frozen, one hand still holding the champagne flute, the other dangling by her side like it forgot what it was for. Her influencer smile had cracked completely, and I could see it, her calculating brain trying to spin this into content even as it crumbled around her. Zane stepped forward like he could shout his way back into control. "That footage was manipulated," he barked. "You're showing out of context material shot without my consent. I'll have legal on this before morning." Nobody moved. "None of that proves anything," he kept going. "That staircase was safe. Nobody was forced. You think Gwen didn't know what she was part of? You think she didn't—" "Don't," I said into the mic. "Don't say her name like that." Zane's face twitched. He opened his mouth again, but 2 of the security guys we'd briefed ahead of time finally stepped in. One stood directly in front of him. The other lightly tapped his shoulder and pointed toward the side exit. Karen didn't follow him. She stood there blinking, like the lights were too bright or the cameras too close or the truth too loud. Maybe all 3. I didn't step down. I held the mic and looked around the room. People I'd done business with. People who bought my tables and sat in my chairs and posted about soulful spaces, while they turned a blind eye to what was hiding behind the art. "My sister died in one of those warehouses," I said. "Some of you knew her. Some of you were in the crowd when those events got praised for being authentic. That building, the one on the screen, that's the last place she was alive." A few heads dropped. A few people just froze, caught mid-sip, mid-breath. "She wasn't careless," I continued. "She wasn't a thrill chaser. She was a teacher, a mother, an artist. And the man you just heard yelling at her thought danger was just part of the vibe. He didn't set up railings. He didn't pull permits. He called it raw. Then he walked away." I felt my throat catch, but I pushed through it. "And while he was out chasing clicks, she fell. And nobody told me until the coroner's report showed up." Lucy had stepped beside the kids now, one hand on Jonah's shoulder, the other gently resting on Vivi's back. They were both quiet, their little name tags still hanging like tiny badges of honor. "This event was never about launching another line," I said. "It was about building something real from what got torn down. The pieces you're bidding on were designed by kids who've been through more than most of us ever will. Kids who still manage to make something joyful, something alive. That's what this night is for." The room stayed silent. Then someone in the back started clapping. Hesitant at first, but then louder. Then another joined in. It wasn't polite applause. It felt real. Zane shoved past the security guy, barking into his phone. I saw Karen trailing him at a distance, face pale, hair flawless, one hand still holding that champagne flute like it might anchor her to something. As she passed the AV booth, Lucy turned just slightly. Karen glanced up, and I swear, for 1 second she looked scared. The docu-team didn't stop rolling. They caught Zane shouting into his phone about lawsuits and haters. They caught Karen trying to explain to someone, anyone, that she'd been young when she promoted those events. That she didn't know what they really were. They caught her saying she barely remembered Gwen. I stood near the edge of the room, watching it unfold like I wasn't even there. People who used to nod politely at Zane were avoiding his eyes. Hotel buyers who once begged for Karen's approval were moving toward other conversations, or leaving entirely. Sponsors ghosted her in real time. One exec quietly turned to me and said, "You should have run this show alone." Later that night, after the last of the press left and the bartenders had started packing up, Lucy found me in the side hallway by the kitchen. "You okay?" she asked. I exhaled. "Honestly? No, but I'm closer." She nodded once. The kids held up. "I saw," I said. "They were better than I was." She gave a small smile. "Jonah said this was the best night of his life. I think he liked the attention. He earned it." She stepped closer. "So did Gwen." We didn't need more than that. In the garage, I found the thumb drive from Zane's old cameraman waiting in a padded envelope. No note, no label, just a silent handoff. I drove it straight to the documentary crew's editor that night, along with scanned copies of Gwen's sketchbook, screenshots of Karen's promo posts from years back, and Vivi's drawing of the loud guy near the stairs. I didn't need the credits. I didn't care about views or subscribers. I just wanted the truth to stick. Within 24 hours, a preview clip dropped online. The reaction was instant. Hashtags exploded. Old footage surfaced. Former assistants and performers added their voices. What started as one clip from one gala became a movement with receipts. By morning, Zane had deleted half his socials and posted a statement that read like a teenager caught cheating on a test. Half denial, half blame, zero accountability. Karen posted a crying selfie in her car, talking about how betrayed she felt and how hard it is to be a woman in the public eye. She made it about herself. Of course she did. The docu-team's full cut was coming in 2 weeks. The gala itself had raised just over $78,000. Half went straight to Jonah's surgeon's office. The rest sat in a new fund Lucy and I opened under Gwen's name, for victims of creative negligence. I walked through the kids' floor that night, stepping over cardboard towers and paint-splattered pillows, and paused at the bench Jonah had designed, the one with the hidden compartments. He'd labeled each one with a word: brave, messy, real, home. That one hit me hardest. By mid-morning, we were back under hospital lights. Jonah had crashed hard, and the paramedics had taken us in. I stood there, frozen behind that beige hallway wall, listening to Karen talk about poisoning a child like she was planning a product launch. "The powder worked too well," she said again, her voice low and smug. "Now they're all paranoid. I have to wait a couple weeks before I try again." She sounded annoyed, like this was an inconvenience, like Jonah's body reacting to whatever she'd slipped him had ruined her schedule. I felt my heart pounding so loud it almost covered the next part, but I heard it. Every word. He doesn't even share Brody's DNA. And that little one, Vivi? Proof that trash runs in that family. I am not building a brand on someone else's sick kids. I want this cleaned up before we start a real family. My throat went dry. My body wanted to move, something between tearing the door off its hinges or screaming until the ceiling caved in. But my hand moved first, straight into my pocket. I opened the voice memos app, hit record, and held the phone just high enough to catch her next sentence. "They're so desperate for a savior, it's pathetic. One sprinkle in a smoothie, and I'm the one who has to fake fainting because their little miracle boy can't handle clean ingredients. Give me a break." A nurse's sneakers squeaked behind me. I turned fast, made eye contact, smiled like I was lost, and walked back toward the family waiting area before Karen noticed I was ever there. I didn't want to see her face. Not yet. Lucy was on the couch, knees pulled to her chest. Vivi curled up beside her watching a cartoon on a tablet with the volume low. Jonah's doctor hadn't returned yet. We didn't know anything new. All we had was waiting. I sat down beside Lucy. She glanced at me, then did a double take. "What happened?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. "Brody," she said, voice sharp now. "What did you hear?" I pulled out my phone, hit stop on the recording, and stared at the screen like it might melt in my hand. "We need to get him retested. Full talk screen. Detailed. I don't care what it costs." Lucy blinked. "You think someone did this on purpose?" I looked at her. "No," I said. "I know they did." Her face didn't move for a full 3 seconds. Then her shoulders tensed like a rope had been pulled tight across her chest. She didn't ask who. She already knew. Somewhere deep down, she'd known for weeks. The doctor came in a minute later with a clipboard and a too-neutral face. "He's stable," he said. "Resting. Labs are still processing, but we're seeing something that looks like an interaction. Something new in his system that shouldn't be there." Lucy stood up. "Can I see him?" He nodded. "Only one at a time right now." She walked out without a coat, like she didn't even feel the chill of the hospital air. I sat there watching the cartoon play out on the tablet. Vivi still half asleep, thumb in her mouth. Karen was somewhere in this building, probably still in that private room, fixing her mascara and texting someone about optics. I pulled out my phone and played the recording back again. Just once, quietly, to make sure it got everything. Her voice was clear. Her words were poison. And she'd said them with the kind of confidence that only came from someone who thought they were smarter than everyone else. I forwarded the file to my lawyer first, then to the detective we'd spoken to about Zane. I typed only one sentence. "This is about Karen, not him. Call me now." Then I stood up. Vivi looked up at me with that soft, sleepy face. "Where's Jonah?" "He's resting, sweetie. He's okay." She nodded and leaned her head against the side of the couch. I handed her the tablet and kissed the top of her head. Then I walked out of the room, past the nurse's station, toward the hallway where I'd just been. Karen's room was third on the left. The door was cracked now. The lights were off. She was sitting up on the bed, phone still in hand, typing like nothing had happened. Like a kid hadn't been loaded into an ambulance that morning because of her. I didn't go in. Not yet. I turned and walked to the reception desk. "Is there a staff member who can walk with me to speak with hospital security?" I asked, calmly, clearly. The woman behind the counter blinked. "Sir, is there an issue?" "Yes," I said. "There's about to be." The morning after Jonah was released, I sat in my truck, parked under the jacaranda tree near the courthouse, with the engine running and my thumb hovering over the screen. The audio was already sent. The detective called within 5 minutes. My lawyer was on the line before I hung up. They both wanted full statements, hard drives, timelines, phone records, everything I had. And I gave them everything. 3 days later, Karen was served in the middle of a shoot she'd booked last minute to rebrand herself as wellness-focused. I saw the footage. Some assistant caught it on their phone. Karen in a cream sports bra, mid-monologue about gut health, freezing as the badge came out. The protective order was immediate. No contact with either kid, no access to the house. Her name was stripped from the foundation, and her manager dropped her that same night. Then came the felony charges. Child endangerment, tampering with prescriptions, attempted poisoning of a minor. She tried to go on the offense, posted a teary live video in a yoga hoodie, talking about natural additives misunderstood by Western medicine, and how jealous exes were using outdated stereotypes against women in caregiving roles. It might have worked a year ago, but not this time. Not with her search history pulled up in court showing she'd Googled non-lethal sedatives for kids and mixing ashwagandha with beta blockers. Not with texts to a friend joking about knocking the tension out of him with a sprinkle. And not with a clean audio file of her calling Vivi trash and promising to start fresh once the sick ones are gone. Zane, meanwhile, was spiraling in public. He did an Instagram live in sunglasses and a beanie, sitting in some borrowed penthouse, ranting about cancel culture and how his art was never meant for the fragile. Halfway through, he admitted Karen had done crisis comms for him back in the day, like she was some kind of soldier in a brand war. That one line ended up quoted in 3 major outlets. The district attorney called it a confession dressed up as self-pity. The docu-channel dropped the full film the following week. Pretty Ruin, the real cost of viral art. It opened with Gwen's sketches, those notations in the margins about lighting, stairs, permits, and rolled into Lucy's testimony, then former performers and warehouse techs. They blurred Vivi's face, but they left in her voice. I draw cats because they're brave and soft at the same time. That broke me a little. By the next morning, Zane's sponsors were gone. Even the grimiest ones didn't want their names next to footage of him screaming at teenagers to climb without harnesses. Karen's brand deals vanished too. A couple companies issued quiet statements about rethinking partnerships. One emailed me directly to say, "We should have listened when she mocked Gwen for being too safe. We're sorry." In court, Zane's lawyer tried the usual dance, claimed Gwen had participated willingly, painted her as an unconventional mother who knew the risks. But the photos, the permits she'd asked for and been ignored, the voice notes from people he'd threatened into silence, all of it added up. He wasn't an artist. He was a reckless man who called danger a vibe and used a camera like a shield. The judge saw it. Karen's trial moved faster. That audio, the hospital reports, and her delivery history from 3 different supplement sites locked the door behind her. Lucy testified with her spine straight, her voice even. She didn't cry, just told the truth in a way that made Karen look smaller with every word. I sat in the back row, listening, knowing it was me who let her in, me who'd made her part of my future, me who'd looked away. When the sentencing came, 5 years each, with separate facilities and no parole in the first 2, I didn't clap. I didn't celebrate. I just sat still, taking a full breath for the first time in years. No applause, no catharsis, just air. Appeals would come. Think pieces too. But that didn't change the fact that, for once, consequences had shown up in person, not just in comments or private guilt. A few months later, it became official. Zane, in a plea deal, and with Vivi's court-appointed guardian ad litem present, signed away all legal claims to her. He didn't even fight it. I don't think he cared enough to. Her last name stayed Simmons. She asked if she could keep it, said it sounded like someone who made stuff. I told her it was perfect. Lucy's old rehab foundation emailed her an offer to come back. New leadership, new direction, full apology. She said no. "I'm not going back to clean up other people's messes," she told me. "I'm building something that can't be hijacked." That last round of hearings ended on a Tuesday. The drive home was quiet. Both kids were asleep in the back, heads tilted opposite ways, their sketchbooks open on their laps. Lucy leaned against the passenger window, her hand brushing mine between us. And I realized something simple but sharp. I wasn't reacting anymore, not chasing after fires other people lit, not patching over rot. I'd picked a side, and it wasn't the polished, filtered one I used to live in. I'm 56 now. The showroom downstairs has been through modern, postmodern, farmhouse, brutalist, back to modern again, and I'm pretty sure the intern just pitched organic gothic like it's brand new. But upstairs, in my own space, I've still got the same scratched-up coffee table Vivi and Jonah turned into a racetrack when they were 6 and 8. I keep meaning to refinish it, and then I don't. It's honest. That wood earned its dents. We split our time now between West Hollywood and this low sprawl of a house near Malibu. I built it years ago as a set piece for catalog shoots. Clean lines, ocean view, open beams. The kids turned it into a second home before I even realized it. Sand trails down the hallway. There's Sharpie under the dining chairs. I stopped fighting it. Some things are better when they're lived in. Vivi's 31. She rents a place in Silver Lake, but her keys still work here, and her toothbrush never leaves. She sketches in the sunroom, still keeps a pair of cat ears in her bag, just in case the day sucks. She calls me bro when she's teasing me, and dad when life gets heavy, and no matter how many times I hear it, it still stops me cold. That word didn't always feel like mine. Now it does. Jonah's 33, working part-time at one of Lucy's programs, part-time from home. He paces himself like the doctors taught him, slow, steady, No hero moves. His last cardiology appointment went so well, the doctor joked about writing him a gold star prescription. He plays it cool, but I saw the way his hand trembled holding the paperwork. He still uses the kitchen table as a desk, spreading out papers like he's building a rocket. Half the time I walk by, he's arguing with Lucy over grant numbers or youth ratios, both of them pretending not to smile while they do it. Lucy and I got married on a Tuesday. Courthouse, quick. No stage lighting, no branded hashtags. Just us, the kids, and a county clerk who mispronounced Simmons twice before we gave up and smiled anyway. Afterwards, we bought tacos off a truck and ate on a stranger's stoop, laughing until my stomach hurt. That photo, us holding paper plates, her shoelace untied, Vivi behind us throwing up a peace sign, it's framed on the mantle. She runs her own nonprofit now, art and support programs for long-stay pediatric patients. I help with the boring parts, zoning, lease reviews, vendor calls. Turns out, 30 years of contracts with rich men in suits were just practice for doing something that actually matters. Gwen's sketchbook hangs in my office, open to a drawing of a bed shaped like a tilted treehouse. That design became the centerpiece of our Gwen's Room collection. Every piece sold still funnels a slice into a fund for kids who lost parents the way Vivi almost did. Quietly, pointlessly, in places that should have been safe. We don't advertise the fund. It's just part of the blueprint now. Every few months, Vivi and I take a long drive north. We stop by the old lot in Bakersfield where I used to sweep sawdust out of the floor cracks. It's a coffee chain now. Then we visit the school where Gwen taught. There's a bronze plaque by the playground slide with her name etched clean. Vivi still tapes a new cat drawing next to it every time. Sometimes brave cats, sometimes tired ones. People still bring up Zane sometimes. Karen, too. Usually when they're ranting about cancel culture, like those two were just misunderstood. I don't jump in. But if someone asks me directly, I tell them this. My sister didn't get a second chance. My son almost didn't. Neither did my niece. That usually ends the discussion. At night, when the house quiets, when I'm done chasing invoices and double-checking measurements for some new bench I probably don't need to build, I walk through the rooms. The baseboards are still marked with kid-height signatures. One of the cabinets has a dent from when Jonah tried to juggle oranges and failed. The plaster in the hallway's uneven where Vivi pressed her hand in before it dried. 10 years ago, I would have had a contractor patch every flaw. Now I leave them. They're proof we were here. Before you scroll, can I ask you something real? If someone in your life showed you who they were too late, would you still give them another shot? Or would you walk away for good? If you've got the hype feature, give this video a tap to help more people find it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It's just one click, but it means a lot to us. Drop a comment too, even if it's just powerful story or your take on how it ended. Love you guys.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.